Okay, welcome. I think we have a few more people coming in. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kristen Pollitt. I'm the planning manager here at the city. I've been working here for about 14 years now, I think. So I've been in the planning department this whole time, and it's funny, I've been thinking over the last 14 years about little things related to this general plan update because I knew it was coming. So I'm really excited to be officially kicking this process off, and really interested to hear all of your input. So just want to thank you all for coming. I know that weekends are busy and it's hard to kind of get away, so we just really appreciate everyone taking the time to come out here and help provide some input so that we can plan for the next 20 years of growth in Pittsburgh. So I want to just get started. A couple housekeeping items. If anybody needs to use the restroom while you're here, there are 2 bathrooms located outside. They're kind of like around the corners. Women are on my left and the men are on my right. We also have some coffee and pastries and a sign-in sheet out front if you didn't catch that on your way in. I also want to just mention that this is going to be the first of many workshops that are coming up. So we hope that you'll continue to participate as we move along through the process. But also if you have any family or friends that missed out, there'll be lots more opportunities to provide input. So with that, I just wanted to also kind of recognize a couple people who are here today. I see we have a couple council members. We have Juan Benales, our mayor, is here. And Jelani Killings is back there as well. Who else do we have? And then we have our city manager, Garrett Evans, who's sitting over here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and just real briefly introduce you to our staff. Our consulting team is De Novo Planning. They have a lot of experience in doing general plan updates, so we are in good hands. We have, first off, Ben Ritchie, who's a principal with De Novo. And then we have Beth Thompson, who's also a principal. And then Melise Carroll, who's going to be helping us facilitate the conversations. Hector Rojas is here somewhere as well. He is our senior planner, and he's going to be the main project contact for the city. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ben, and we'll get this started.
All right, thank you very much. Well, happy Saturday morning. This is a fantastic turnout. It's a great day, so we appreciate everybody being out here. So. That was a fantastic introduction. So I just wanted to give you a quick picture of the game plan for today so you can understand what to expect over the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so. We're going to try real hard to get everybody out of here by noon and make good use of our time this morning. So we did the introduction. So just a little bit more about De Novo Planning Group. So we are professional planning consultants. We do this for a living. Beth and I are owners of the firm, and Elise is a senior planner with our firm. And I don't live in Pittsburgh. I'm not from here. So we're based out of the Sacramento area, and we've been brought in under contract by the city to help you chart the course for the next 20 years through your general plan update. And the way that we do that is we listen. So we have a lot of professional planning experience. We have a lot of tools in our toolkit, and we've worked with tons of communities of all different makeups throughout the state of California for the last 11 years since starting this company, and Beth and I have been doing this for about 20 years apiece. And you guys have the type of input and answers that we need to help you craft a plan for you. So that's our job here. We're facilitators. I would never pretend to come to your community and tell you what's best for you and your vision of the future. You guys live here, you guys work here, you own homes here, you go to school here. It's your job to tell us what you want for your next 20 years. And so this is the kickoff to that process. This is the kickoff to that effort. So what we're going to do this morning, we'll talk just a very little bit about what a general plan is. If you don't work in a planning department or deal with the development community on a regular basis, it's very likely that you've never cracked open your existing general plan and read through it. But it's a very important document that every city and county in California is required to have. We're going to talk about the importance and the timeliness of this update and how it can affect key city decisions and even your everyday life and help really mold the future of the city. We'll talk a little bit about the community engagement process, and this is really step one of that. So this is our first visioning workshop. We have additional workshops planned, and we'll talk about the different opportunities for you to remain involved with this process over the next 2 years or so. And then we have a couple of activities that we're going to do here in our workshop that's going to help us get the information we're seeking from you guys. So don't worry, I'm not going to put everybody on the spot and have you stand up here with a microphone. So we have some activities that are going to help us get input from everybody. And then we'll wrap this up. We'll talk about what we've heard, and we'll talk about the next steps as we move forward through this process. All right. So why is a general plan important? The general plan really articulates the community's vision for itself. It serves as your playbook, and it helps guide a lot of key decisions related to things like land use and planning direction for a lot of key things that the city undertakes. So that's land use planning. A lot of people are familiar with the concept of a zoning map. You can have commercial on one parcel, residential on another parcel. So the land use map and the land use decisions that the city makes really helps guide and dictate your urban fabric. You know, what types of buildings go where, how tall can buildings be, what types of uses. It also relates very closely to our infrastructure. How do we lay out our roadway network? Where do we plan for new roads? How do we prioritize bicycle lanes, sidewalks, parking lanes, things like that when we're dealing with a limited amount of right-of-way? How do we make sure we plan effectively for adequate water supply in the future? Do we know how big this city is going to grow over the next 20 years? Are we going to have the appropriate utilities, public services like police services, fire department, libraries, community services, cultural services, things like that? So the general plan lays out a lot of the policies and the growth plans that are going to help the city make these decisions to grow effectively and have a good quality of life over the next 20 years. And it also deals very closely with our natural environment. So are we making appropriate adaptive changes for climate change and rising sea level? Are we preserving adequate areas of open space? Are we making sure that we have policies in place to have clean air, clean water, open view sheds? I mean, I look out the window right here. So the planning decisions that we make are going to have a tremendous influence over our built environment and our natural environment. So your elected officials, your mayor, your city council, your appointed officials like your planning commissioners, as well as city staff, they use the general plan on a daily basis to provide that guidance when they're making key decisions that affect the future of the city. So there are a lot of topics that we address in the general plan. I just touched on some of them, but we talk about the topics of mobility. So everything from traffic, it's basically how we get around. So buses, the BART system, sidewalks, pedestrians, safe routes to schools, making sure we have acceptable vehicle traffic flow and safety throughout the community. We're going to be focusing on youth and recreational opportunities. So it's great to see some younger faces in the crowd today. It's a nice refreshing change from some of the workshops that we do. And these are going to be the generation that inherit this plan 20 years from now in the city that we leave to them. So making sure we've got programs and policies that look at that demographic. Different economic factors like jobs, shopping centers, the retail environment, planning for future housing opportunities. And that's housing of a range of housing types for a range of income types. As we all know, in California, housing can be very expensive, and one size fits all doesn't work. There are people that aspire to be in apartments or multifamily housing. Some people aspire to be in single family homes, and we want to make sure that we have a balanced mix that works for the city moving into the future. We also look at safety in terms of worker safety, in terms of traffic safety, safety from hazardous materials and chemical spills, and also safety from natural conditions like landslides or flooding or sea level rise and things like that. So why do we need an update, and why is now the time to do it? The city last comprehensively updated their general plan in the year 2001. So we're coming on the 20-year anniversary here pretty soon. Generally, these things have a shelf life of anywhere from 15 to 20 years, and we use a 20-year planning horizon. So as we're preparing this general plan update, we'll be looking out to the year 2040. May seem like a long way off, but there's going to be people in this room who are still active, vibrant leaders of this community 20 years from now, and we're planning for that horizon. We have a lot of changes in demographics and market conditions that have happened here locally and throughout the region over the last 18 years or so. There's a lot of opportunities for changes in land use and how the city chooses to grow over the next 20 years. We've also had a lot of changes in state law. So the state's handing down a lot of new housing laws. We've had a lot of legislation passed related to climate change since 2001 in the last update. We've had a lot of legislation related to environmental justice and making sure that disadvantaged communities are properly represented by their general plans. And this is also a chance for the city leadership and city staff to really go out and make a concerted effort to reconnect with the community. We've had a set of general plan policy guidance that served the city well over the last 18 years, and this is a chance to go out and reconnect and reaffirm what the vision is for the next 20 years. Are we on the right path? Do we need to reprioritize some of our decisions? And how do we want to look at ourselves as we move forward for the next 20 years? So, as I've mentioned, the purpose, it defines a long-term vision for growth and resource management. It's very much intended to reflect the city's goals, priorities as a community, your values. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach to preparing general plans. What's going to work for the City of Pittsburgh is not necessarily the same approach for the City of Concord or the City of Oakland or the City of Brentwood. So this really needs to reflect your local values and your priorities. We're going to work on building on past successes. You know, you've had some successful development in the downtown area. You've had some successful development around the BART stations, and looking to build upon a lot of the work that the city's already put into their planning efforts. Planning is a constant, ongoing, evolving effort by city staff and city leadership, and we're trying to build off of that, use that as a stepping stone. And ultimately, what we're seeking to do is balance what are often several conflicting goals and priorities. We're trying to balance new housing opportunities with preserving open space. We're trying to balance providing good, high-quality jobs while providing a good revenue stream for the city. Trying to provide high-quality public services while keeping costs down and providing opportunities for future generations to inherit, a fiscally sound city government. So sometimes these goals can be at odds with each other. And the general plan seeks to find that happy middle ground that works best for this community at this point in time. So there are a number of required topics in a general plan that the state of California tells us must be included in the general plan. So these required topics include land use, transportation, open space, conservation, safety, noise, and housing. So the state tells us that we have to include these elements or chapters or topical issues, but there's quite a bit of leeway in how the city chooses to address each of these discrete topics. And so that's where you're going to have a real good opportunity to put your personalized mark on this plan. The city also has a tremendous amount of flexibility in terms of including optional elements, things not mandated by the state but that are important here locally. And so the optional topics that we're planning to include in the general plan, we don't have to, but the city has elected to include these topics, include urban design, the downtown, community health and wellness, public facilities, youth and recreation, economic development, and growth management. So these are also topics that will be either in standalone chapters or elements or interwoven throughout other chapters or elements of the general plan itself. So the council, in making the decision to direct staff to hire a consultant for this, has had a number of deliberative discussions to make sure that before we start our work effort, we understand what's important to the council and the community big picture. And we're going to continue to come back and ask a lot of questions and do these workshops and add to this list and refine this list. But some of the big picture questions that we know we're going to be tackling as part of this update are sustainable growth, planning for quality infrastructure, providing educational opportunities and providing city policies that are very supportive of our local schools, having a good jobs housing balance, making sure that we have enough employment opportunities here to support our local population, having complete neighborhoods. There can be neighborhoods that don't have access to good shopping services, or neighborhoods that have incomplete streets, or neighborhoods that need better public services and infrastructure. Making sure that we're addressing opportunities for traffic calming and not putting policies in place that are going to exacerbate bad traffic conditions. And very closely related that is making sure that we have a walkable and a bikeable community that's safe for all members. Addressing topics of community health, so that's access to health care, access to recreational opportunities, access to clean, local, healthy foods. Addressing the issue of affordable housing, again, making sure we have a range of housing options available for all demographics and segments of our community. Addressing the issue of homelessness, making sure we adequately address the preservation and conservation of open space resources, climate adaptation, and other topics that are going to be brought to our attention. This is just a preliminary list, and we know that it's not exhaustive. And again, we're just getting started on this process to listen to the community to make sure that we're hearing your priorities for future big picture questions we should be tackling. So this is a process. We're going to be here for the next 2 years or so working on this general plan update. And we generally break this into 3 phases of our work because it's a big document, then a lot goes into it. So we don't just come in and plop down and try and crank this out over a couple of week period. So our first phase is what we call Envision Pittsburg. So this is an opportunity for us to do a series of these community outreach workshops. We'll also be doing what we call pop-up events. You may see us at farmers markets or different community events where we're not holding a formal meeting on the general plan, but it's an opportunity for us to provide information and gather feedback in a more informal, kind of quick discussion setting. We're also going to be preparing a number of technical reports. So one of those is called the Existing Conditions Report. I always like to say it's very difficult to effectively plan for the future if you don't have a solid understanding of what your starting point is. So this is a document where we look at demographics, air quality, floodplains, traffic conditions, noise impacts around the community. We look at a whole range of topics in the Existing Conditions Report. We also prepare what we call a Vision and Opportunities Report. And that is where we're going to take all of the input we've gotten from you folks and the rest of the input we get from the other visioning workshops and provide a very detailed summary about what we heard from the community and start to lay out what we see as some key opportunities for how the general plan can address the priorities that you've articulated to us. That'll help us segue into our next phase of work where we actually start to put the general plan itself together. So the general plan is going to have a whole lot of goals and policies and implementing action items that the city can carry out. It's also going to have the land use map. So we'll be working with a steering committee, and we're going to be coming up with different land use alternatives and different ways that you may grow and change in the future. And we'll be preparing an analysis report, a land use alternatives and capacity report that helps us, the city council, the community at large, understand the implications of each of your different growth scenarios. So for example, if we have areas where we show higher concentrations of apartments and multifamily housing, what's that going to mean in terms of traffic? What's that going to mean in terms of population growth? Or what if we push for opportunities for different high-wage job growth in different sectors of the city? What's that going to mean for the city's fiscal health and traffic and housing opportunities? So before we ask the council, the planning commission, and the community to chime in on what your preferred growth plan is, we're going to make sure we have a good supporting analysis behind it so you can make an informed decision and understand what these different map scenarios mean in terms of future implications. And then as we work our way into the final phase of this, it's where the general plan gets finalized in draft form. It goes out for a review and comment period. There's going to be additional workshops and community open house opportunities where we present the plan, we get your feedback, we allow you to ask questions, we answer questions about the intent of different policies, and we also prepare our environmental documents. So we're required to prepare what's called an environmental impact report, or an EIR, which is required under California environmental law. So again, these documents go out for public review and comment. We'll figure out if we have significant changes that need to be made, and then we'll have a series of public hearings with the Planning Commission and City Council, which will ultimately lead to adoption of your new general plan. And that's essentially our finish line, approximately 2 years from now. So as I've mentioned, community engagement is a real important component of this. So we've already conducted a kickoff meeting with the City Council. We're doing a series of 3 visioning workshops, and I'll have the dates of, this is the first one, so the subsequent 2, I'll have the dates of those up on the screen. I've also got flyers and newsletters over here on the side table you can grab before you leave today. So a lot of the information I'm talking about right now is in the newsletter. And I also want to point out now early on, we have a website dedicated to this project. It's pittsburgh.generalplan.org. I've got plenty of slides with it up on the screen. And it's your one-stop shop for all information related to this. So I see some folks taking pictures of the slides up here. That's fantastic. This presentation will be up on the website early next week. Anytime we do any public information, any presentation, it goes up on the website. So if you're wondering, hey, when was that next meeting? If you take anything away from here in terms of information, pittsburgh.generalplan.org. It's a site dedicated to this project throughout the entire process. So back to our community engagement work plan. We're going to be doing a series of up to 12 briefings and sessions with the City Council and or Planning Commission. So sometimes these will be joint sessions, sometimes will be just with the Council or just with the Planning Commission. These are all open to the public, and there's opportunities for public comment at all of them. We're going to be doing a number of community workshops and pop-up events. So that was like the farmers market example I gave, and we're working with staff to add to the number that the city staff and the rest of the project team are going to be holding in terms of getting out in the community. We'll be doing coordination with various stakeholders. So this could be the community college, the school district, downtown merchants associations, Rotary, different real estate groups, things like that. So various stakeholders in the process, we'll be reaching out directly with them one-on-one. I mentioned the online presence, so everything we publish or do as part of this work effort is going to make its way online. We'll have public scoping meetings for the environmental impact report and a series of adoption hearings with the Planning Commission and City Council as we reach the finish line on this process. So in terms of what we're going to be up to for the next couple of months, these visioning workshops are going to take us through May. And then we're really going to be transitioning into wrapping up the existing conditions report and the economic market analysis. So we're targeting late May or into June for publishing those reports and documents. They won't have policy in them. It's going to be more of a documentation of our starting point. We're going to be preparing what we call a general plan audit memo, and this is essentially going through your current general plan and figuring out what's working, what doesn't comply with current state law, and identifying some shortcomings that we're going to make sure we have a targeted effort to address. I talked about that land use alternatives and capacity report. We expect that to be ready in the late fall of this year, and we'll be working on the general plan policy sets in the summer through the late fall. So that's something we'll be working on the latter half of 2019. All right, so that was my introductory spiel, and I promise that is the longest sustained amount I will talk directly at you for the rest of this evening. So thank you very much for your patience. And what I'd like to do now is move into the first of our two activities, and this is going to be an opportunity for us to get some feedback from you on some big picture questions. So we're doing a Post-it note activity, and we've done these in a lot of places for a lot of years, and we get some fantastic feedback on posties. So we'd like you to indulge us and play ball with the Post-it note activity. And these are the big picture questions we're asking you, and then I have a second slide with slightly more focused questions. But generally, the information we're trying to flesh out from you right now is, what do you like most about Pittsburgh? And what should stay the same? What's working here? You know, why is this a great place to live? And what do you value and want to see preserved about this community? Secondly, as you look forward to the future, what are your major concerns? You know, there's a range of topics. I don't even want to give any examples because I don't want to lead you down. I don't want to lead your input at all. But what are your main concerns as you look to the future? And similar to that, what needs to change in this community as you're looking to the future 20 years from now? And what three things would you like to see the city accomplish over the next 20 years? So with those big picture questions in mind, these are very similar, but I'd like to break it down into assets, challenges, and vision. So I'll give you the instructions on this twice. I have a couple of questions for assets. Just think of them as open-ended questions related to the community's assets. What's great here and what's working? Then a couple of questions on challenges. Well, what do you see the city's challenges as you look to the future? And then big picture, vision. What's your vision for the future of this community 20 years from now? So what I would like each individual to do, it's an individual exercise, is provide me 3 responses to each of the 3 questions, the assets, challenges, and vision. So don't count the bullet points. So you might say, hey man, there's actually 2 assets questions. Assets is a question, challenges is a question, vision is a question. And what do you see as your 3 biggest assets, your 3 biggest challenges, and your 3 biggest ideas for the vision of the future? And so that's up to, we have math majors in the room, that's 9 responses possible per person. So I'd like them to be 3 per category. We have our boards up here, write them down on a Post-it note, and that's the beauty of Post-it. Some people are going to give me one word, you're going to say traffic. Other people are going to write me a mini essay on a Post-it note, and you're going to fit in as many thoughts as you can. That's fantastic. It's a personalized exercise. If you want to put 3 responses on one Post-it, that's totally fine, but I do request that you keep a separate Post-it for each topic. So don't put a challenge and an asset on the same Post-it note. We have pens and Posties on the table. The colors are absolutely irrelevant. We have you guys, this is good turnout. We have plenty of more Post-it notes. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes or so to write them down. When you finish writing them down, come stick them up on the appropriate board, and that's the activity. So off you go. If you got any questions, raise your hand, and our staff team will be walking around. All right, this is a 1-minute wrap-it-up warning, and the last thing I wanted to point out, if we have any groups where you just don't have consensus on concepts, I don't want any ideas to feel shut out. So if you've got someone who feels differently than your group, go ahead and make a note on the map and say, hey, differing opinion on, one member felt different on such and such. So go ahead and make those notes if you want. But if at this point, please get those final thoughts down on paper, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up the map.
Could you tell them that somebody from each group's going to present? Okay. I put this down, so I don't know that we need to go over them. This
All righty, if I could get everybody back in their seats, please, and have your attention. We're making our final push here, so. All right, I'll get everybody's attention up here, please. Fantastic, thank you. All right, what we're gonna do at this stage is I am now gonna come around to each table, and I would like one representative from each table to give me the 1 minute, the 60-second highlight version of what you've got on your map. And so it's going to be quick on the fly. I know you guys got a lot of ideas down, but we're going to go to every table. So you can't walk me through every single thing you wrote down. The highlights on your map, I would just like the real quick versions. Quick question? Oh, you're ready. Hey, I've never had a volunteer to start this, so we're going here. This is happening. All right. All right, for my note takers, I got map number 6.
Map number 6.
I'm going to hand you the microphone, and I will hold your lovely map.
Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday morning. This is my group. We're very dynamic. We got things done. Okay. I'm Lisa, Roxanne, and Bernadette, and Roxanne's daughter. Okay, so this is Pittsburgh. We quite obviously want to preserve a lot of open space, so all open space is preserved all along the waterway, preserved all along the river on the border of physical Pittsburgh. We want to preserve the downtown. Good plan. We're going to preserve every single park where you see a check mark. In terms of important roadways, most definitely Cricker Pass is very important to us. Railroad Avenue is very important to us. Buchanan is a very important artery, so we're very concerned about that. Some areas that are causing issues that we want to flag are the red. In particular, downtown, we don't think enough people know where our downtown is and actually get there and utilize all the wonderful things that happen there. Big important issue for us. Downtown is way over there, and Pittsburgh is all the way here, and people need to know where it is. Another issue was a housing area somewhat near Pittsburgh High School called Pueblo, was it? Pueblo area? That they need more access to good grocery stores in this area. Within walking distance. And then another important thought, that there isn't adequate protection for pedestrians going over Highway 4, kind of a dangerous situation there, particularly for high school kids walking across. So that's our thoughts, and yeah, that's our thoughts.
Fantastic. Hey, round of applause for our volunteer to go first. Thank you. That's some good mapping. All right, I'll leave this here, but we are coming back for the maps. All right, I'm coming over here next because you're closest. Who's my volunteer? All right. I will give you the mic. Here, I'll hold it.
Okay, we pretty much agree with the preserving all the parks and, let's see, roadways. Agree with yours, but we had Range Road on the north side has never been developed, but it's been sitting there. And then, of course, Highway 4. And I know it's not part of the city, but Bailey Road improvements. And then what else we got here? We want to preserve the marina. It's in the downtown area as well, but we'd also like to see what we can do to get more businesses down there and even improve it, because it's such a jewel and we can do more with it. What else? We talked about possibly attracting like a Little League type park that would have league games. You know, it brings in a lot of business from other cities. You know, their kids come to play. And then Keller Canyon problems. And what else? That's basically all we got through, I think. Fantastic. Okay.
All right, round of applause for my second group. Thank you very much. All right, I am coming up here next. All right, I will hand you the mic and get these off. This up over here.
So my name is William Goodwin, and as you can see, we had a lot of ideas.
Mapping right here.
Some of the areas that we would like to preserve is obviously the marina. We want to preserve all the parks. We think we have great parks, John Henry, Buchanan Park, we would like to expand. All the trails as well. Some of the areas that are special needs we thought was Willow Pass. Let's see, across the street, really, those hotels. We believe that it brings in the wrong kind of crowd. And let's see, traffic is a big issue, especially around BART, parking, Bliss, East Leland, California, we believe is in need of improvement because there's a lot of traffic there. We were thinking that maybe a one-way street could be created to get into the downtown area because it's all congested, usually. Highlands Elementary is, we like that area to be preserved and enhanced. We were thinking that maybe not another high school, but we can break our high school into two segments where it's the freshmen and sophomores and then juniors and seniors, at least to break that 3,000 member population up. That's a lot of students in one school. And I guess that's the highlights of our map.
Hey, round of applause. Good work. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm heading this way. Okay. All right, who's up?
Yeah, hi. Hi, I'm Pittsburgh's Mr. Bicycle. I concentrated on putting green lines on our map. You notice that green is important corridors. We have lots of corridors in Pittsburgh that need bicycle lanes. That's the only thing I know. Now I'll hand it over to Claudia.
Good morning, I'm Claudia. I'll kind of do a summary of what we included are the major ones. We also agreed with a couple groups about the grocery stores, and a lot of our residential areas have to get on car and they're kind of far, and even the options we have are very limited. We also wrote down consider annexation of this area in Bay Point or consideration of that area, and also this area over here that's part of Antioch. For preserving, we wanted to keep all the hills and maintain them as open spaces. And we circled this whole area where we wanted to include more retail, more market rate rentals, and including different types of residential areas and retail altogether. And then another important one was for our neighborhoods throughout the city, make them a little bit more complete. A lot of the residential areas are secluded from different trails and parks and retail and commercial areas, so kind of making trails or making them more walkable from the areas of interest and schools as well. And I think those are the main points we talked about.
Fantastic. All right, round of applause. Good work, guys. All right, I'm coming this way. All right, who's up over here? All right. Here, I will come back.
All right, I'm gonna go over here so I can see. All right, hi everyone, Elisa Robinson. We have a number of things, so we'll start with zoning changes along Railroad Avenue to make it more high density, development friendly, business friendly, get more people in there and expand resources. And then we have pedestrian safety, which is also a big issue, and that's why you see green lines kind of going all over the place. Pedestrian safety and traffic, making it better flow, looking at our lights and how people actually move through the city and improving it. And then we have preserving Old Town and the character there because we like our history. And then 4 is open space conservation, so preserving our hills, what we look out at and make sure that it suits Pittsburgh and fits Pittsburgh, and same with the waterfront. Preserving that and also restoring habitat. Let's see. 5. Where's 5? More services, retail out there in the San Marcos area, bringing more businesses and services for the residents there. And then waterfront, I already covered that one. So we made a key. That's why I'm having such a hard time reading it. It's all the way on the other side of the map, and I wrote small. It's also reserved, redeveloping railroad, the zoning changes.
Okay, number 8.
More multi-use paved bike paths and pedestrian paths. Making, yes.
My reasoning for, the Kirker Pass where it says preserve forever, I'm kind of inspired with the George Washington Parkway in Washington, D.C., where we had a multi-use parkway. However, I also proposed dropping the speed limit to 45 miles an hour, because right now I think it's about 50, right? Yes, 55, yep. So if that trail is ever built, the speed limit's got to go down, please.
Okay, then we're on to removing the brownfields, actually getting them back to non-toxic levels. Art space in warehouses, so the empty warehouses that we might have sitting around town, get some artists in there and have a new component to our downtown. And then 11.
I think it's redundant here.
Yeah, we covered that one, so.
And number 12.
Oh, there's more.
A network of walking trails up in the hills.
Kind of like there, well, you're in the hills, and I'm thinking throughout town, so it's actually more walkable, and their idea was great. And then number 13, looking at the traffic flow around Highway 4 between Leverage and Railroad, because California, Bliss, and all the on-ramps, off-ramps, we really need to look at that and improving the flow.
Fantastic. Round of applause. Good job on the map and the legend key. That is helpful. All right, I'm coming here. Who's up?
All right. First of all, I listen to all the suggestions from all the groups. Great ideas. They've been presented. And we blocked out a couple of main areas. One is to protect the ridge line. Once you get in it, you're going to find out that you're not going to eliminate all development, but the concept, you can implement a ridgeline ordinance, hillside ordinance that would reduce any development on, like the first was proposed in the city many years back, 150-foot setback, and then a density issue where as you move up the hill, it's a lower density per acre, so that you don't end up with a Daly City type of a look. The other thing, and then I'm going to stop in a second and let Helen speak, is there's going to be a lot of homes that are planned to be built in San Marcos general area there that's going to even increase all the more so the traffic on Bailey Road. Bailey Road is a hazard. I mean, I don't know about you, but I live down that area, and several times a year it's blocked off at the bottom because there's been a major accident that you can't even get through. That existed on Kirker Pass before they put a cement divider in there. I know a family here in Pittsburgh that killed the father, the mother, and the son in one accident. Somebody crossed over drunk and killed the whole family. So that needs to take place. So we need to widen Bailey, get the developers to participate in that expense, and put a cement divider in Bailey because it's going to only increase. And then, go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, we were not quite in, we didn't have a uniform or unanimous agreement as far as the ridgeline protection. My esteemed colleague over here was saying that we go 150 feet from the top, but we'd like to see no development up there. I mean, we'd like to keep some open space. We all agreed on the Bailey Road widening and the concrete. That was just a great idea. We've circled here doing some economic development downtown, in the downtown area. I think that there's more study. Over 20 minutes is required to put this in, but one of the things that had come up is rezoning and distinguishing or establishing a ownership zone for tiny homes, maybe a tiny home development. There's been a lot of effort in the city to talk about affordable housing, and there's been some controversy about that, but it's like there's no reason we can't have affordable home ownership. I think it really, there's a stratification, there's a big difference here. And we could stimulate homeowners in smaller homes, tiny homes, or maybe modest homes, up to like 700 square feet. It's a trend that's happening in the country, and there's no reason that we can't even take this John Mansville area, even though it's a hazardous area. We're talking about a tiny home ownership where you got mobility, or smaller homes, you can build on top of that stuff. You can concrete over it, and whatever's underneath is not an issue. And then we all like the idea of a free shuttle up and down Railroad, going all the way downtown. Something that could be done quite affordably and just make it easy for people to get up and down the city, making multiple stops, you know, the BART station and downtown and back up. Thank you.
One other. And then the other that was mentioned too is that, I don't know how many are familiar, but the city, maybe 20 years back, basically abdicated their responsibility for youth sports and categorized two categories. And one was the active sports, which are organized sports, and the other is passive sports, anything other than organized sports. And they shut down their recreation department, shut down, and the strategy was to take and supposedly partner with the school district, which they did, to build oversized gyms and enhanced gyms that would enhance the organized sports component. But in this city, as everybody knows, it's all disappeared. Any passive sports, the roller skating rink, the Marina Center shut down and became the sheriff's training facility. And so many of the members are really concerned that we can say that we're concerned about youth, but it's where you put your checkbook. You know, if you say you're concerned about youth, but you're not spending money, you don't staff, you don't have facilities for drop-in centers, you don't have all that, then it's not important to you, no matter what you say. And so it was important to the group to also, if it's a priority, let's make it real. Because right now, take a survey, there is nothing in this city, no knocks on the current council, this is many years before them, but this city has nothing for youth.
Thank you very much. All right, I am moving this direction. We're up here next. All right, who's my speaker?
All right, I thought that we had designated another spokesperson, but apparently they set me up. All right, so like many folks, we agreed that we'd like to preserve the open space and do as much as possible, recognizing that there are already housing developments that are contracted in, it's going to happen, but how can we ensure that we maintain the majority of the open space and connect more ways for people to engage with that open space through walking, biking trails, etc. In terms of areas of concern for traffic in particular, the railroad corridor for sure, all the way up to Kirker Pass, and the density that happens with traffic around Railroad and the intersection at Highway 4 and Bliss Avenue, doing something to address the congestion that exists there. Also connecting to some of the other thinking that folks have put out about the safety for pedestrians and the amount of foot traffic that's happening along with vehicle traffic. We're in agreement with many folks that the downtown, Old Town, Marina District area needs to be prioritized in terms of development, both preservation, but bringing new businesses in, retail and dining. And that needs to be paired with a very strong priority for public relations and marketing, so that people know that it's there, that it becomes a destination for the area for folks to come down. Maybe even getting an anchor store of some sort that doesn't have to be something huge, but we put as an example maybe a Gap store down there, something that will get people coming down in that area and discovering restaurants and whatnot, and filling those spaces. Another area is the gravel area down by the marina where the seafood festival happens. Much of the time that's just an empty dirt lot. It's primary retail and the primary real estate. And is there some way to look at bringing some permanent destination restaurant with a view, or some combination restaurant, small retail, but that does not take away the view and encourages people to come down, take advantage of the view, and enjoy that space. We also thought that we'd like to see some of the waterfront preserved down here. We know that there's industrial areas down at the bottom of Harbor. But, and we know that there's a school that's planned to go in down there at the bottom, but also, how can we preserve some of that waterfront space so it's not all overtaken, and addressing the traffic congestion that's going to happen, that could happen along Harbor with a large school coming down there and any other development that's happening. How do we think about, I like the idea that a couple folks had is, can you have some one-ways and also the consideration of a free shuttle. Anything else that, yeah, and then thinking about how we can encourage more investment in improving the Century Boulevard shopping. Like if you look at the Target down there, it's like mid-1990s, right? It hasn't been touched for a long time. Some of those storefronts are not attractive, but how can you pair that perhaps with some feasible high-density condos or home ownership that might entice the owner to invest more in sprucing up and making that more of an attractive shopping plaza? What else am I missing here, folks? Oh, and same thing with Walmart shopping, that shopping center. How can that be addressed in a way that makes it more enticing and safe, addressing some of the crime that's happening over there with car break-ins and people not feeling as comfortable or safe over there?
All right, good job. Round of applause. Here, I'm going to leave this here with you for just a moment. Thank you. All right, I saved my best one for last. All right, who's taking this mic?
Process of elimination, I got it. No. Well, thank for everybody that's gone before us, because you guys have pretty much covered everything that we had. One of the main concerns we had is traffic along Leland, Railroad, Harbor, and of course Highway 4. Something needs to be done about it. I need to be able to see what people wrote on here. Preserve the waterfront area. We do have concerns about the proposed charter school here and the traffic that it's going to cause, in addition to the traffic from the high school. Trying to get anywhere before school and after school is next to impossible. We talked about grocery stores, both at the marina and San Marco, and where there's large housing developments that have no place to shop. Stop the expansion of Keller Canyon. I know that they've moved to the other side now, but it just needs to stop. The proposed buildings along Leland should be in the center, and then some of our group felt that there should be senior activities and housing in the old golf course area. Utilize that for those folks. What am I forgetting here? Take advantage of the waterfront and enhance what we have. Preserve the San Marco Hills that's proposed for development. We want to see those hills stay green in the wintertime. And then just basically protect what we have in Pittsburgh. We kind of had a general consensus that they're building and building and building, but it's not really filling the need of the community to, they want to build expensive homes, but people can't afford it and such. So we kind of would like to see Pittsburgh remain the community it is, but be enhanced. We don't need to become some big old monstrosity. Anyway, if that makes sense.
Work on improving our schools so that people will want to come here. Our schools need to be worked on. They have improved over the years, but they really need to improve because there are many, many, many small communities that make it very well, that have grocery stores, that have good schools. We need to work on what we have, make it better, and stop trying to expand and make everything mediocre.
Somebody wrote upside down here.
Improve existing housing without gentrification, no housing expansion.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
That. Anything else from our group? Did I cover it? Okay.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. Great job on the maps, all 8 groups. Those were fantastic. I got like two more words for you and then turn you loose to your weekend. So, All right, we did our summary of what we've heard. So, staying involved, I mentioned the website, pittsburgh.generalplan.org. We're going to have the presentation up there. We've got the upcoming workshops, Monday, April 22nd, in this room from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to be focusing more on transportation and mobility. So I encourage all of you to come on back and bring a friend and neighbor. Let's see if we can get as many people involved as possible. Workshop number 3, we're going to be focusing more refined on land use and community design. That's Monday, May 13th. Again, we're going to be doing different activities and asking different focus questions for each of these workshops, so I encourage you to attend more than one. I've got newsletters up front. We've got workshop flyers up front. There's a picture of the website, and happy Saturday. There's a whole lot of sugar and pastries out there, so go home with something. Thank you, guys. You did great today, and we're done for the day. Thanks.